Good morning. It's Wednesday. Welcome to EXSIN Live. And one thing I realized when I was talking to Phil this morning before we started was,
Sorry, you know what I'm thinking about.
was that these 6 things that apply to business coaches apply to every single business owner out there. So let me start with this because we said we're going to start talking about business coaches. Business coaching is going to be a $20 billion industry by the end of 2022. Now, Phil, the sad part is only 20% are going to succeed.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough business. We know.
Yeah.
And the reason it's tough is that it's not. There's a lot of things out there. If your car wears out, you go buy a new car. If you have roof damage, you go buy a new roof. There's all these things, right? Your dishwasher quits working, whatever the case may be. Your carpet wears out, you get new carpet. But when you're stuck in a rut, a lot of times, because that's really what business coaches are, they go in, they help you figure out what's going on, what's wrong, what's the root of the problem, and then you've got to figure out a solution to get people to more profitability, less expense, better.
Keep it on, you're good.
All these different things. So it's not something people wake up every day saying, geez, I think I'm gonna go hire a business coach today. And that's something that's just not on the forefront of everybody's thoughts. But I will tell you, it is becoming more popular. People are starting to understand the value of it. There are always people, Dave and I, believe me, we put social media stuff out there and we get all the, for every positive, there's usually a negative comment about coaching, and we understand that. I mean, every coach isn't the same, just like every doctor isn't the same, every lawyer isn't the same, every teacher isn't the same, every roofer isn't the same. You can have good and bad experiences. So we understand that, but it's a business that requires you to this one thing. You have to have a belief that what you're doing is going to help people get better. If you don't have that fundamental belief, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, here's the funny part. So if you have kids that play the piano or in gymnastics or are in band or play baseball or football or whatever, my guess is if you want your kid to be good, you're spending money on a tutor or a coach.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how many dollars I spent on my children and their events to make sure they're with the right people, but you did it. But the funny part is business owners are like, you know what? I don't need a coach. I know what I'm doing. And the reality of it is if you haven't been there and you haven't seen things, you need to be with a coach. That's why the industry is growing so much. That's why it's going to be a $20 billion industry by 2022. And if you're thinking about stepping off on any kind of side hustle, whether it's coaching or something else, let's talk about 6 things you need to think about before you do it, because it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of pain in the process.
Yeah, and this applies to all business.
It does, everything.
Something you got to understand. I mean, I think what makes a good business coach is somebody that has lived it. Yep. You got to have the expertise, obviously, but we think that experience is critical. And there's a lot of folks out there that are great marketers that are selling 20-year-old kids that are telling 50-year-old people who've been in business for 30 years how to run their business. And I guess that's okay. Great marketing, but I think the best coaches, what we've seen, is they really want to see improvement. They want to increase profitability. A good coach doesn't cost anybody a dime. A good coach makes their feedback 10 times. And so that's something you got to keep in mind. We've had coaching clients that within the first few months, we saved them $500,000. We've had coaching clients that over periods of time, their sales went up 40, 50%. So there's all these things, but you got to be focused on getting real results.
Well, absolutely. And anything you pay money for, you need a return on investment.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting a return on investment, or your company's not moving in the right direction, then you probably need to adjust your width. Yep. Now, let's talk about it. So side hustle or coach, whatever you want to do on the side. The first thing you don't want to do is spend hundreds of thousands or thousands of dollars on a bunch of additional certifications or training that you don't really need.
I've done that.
A lot of people, and what it ends up happening, you spend a few $1,000s, you never use it, or people don't want it because it doesn't fit your niche market you're going into,
Correct.
And you've wasted all this time.
Correct.
So when you overspend on training, you're really hurting your ability to grow your business, because the foundation of any business is 2 things. You got to have marketing, you got to drive sales.
Yep.
If you don't have sales and you don't have marketing, you don't have a business. None of the other stuff matters.
yeah, once you have those things really going, you obviously want to look at operations. You obviously want to look at all these things. Thanks, Matt. I do have a bunch of letters after my name. Matt knew me when I was trying to learn my ABCs, so I mean I've got a bunch of letters now. So, but I think one of the key things is that you can't, you've got to be, operations is important, administration is important, HR is, they're all important. But to Dave's point, if you're not feeding the machine, you don't have parts to make if you're in manufacturing, you got to feed the machine. So you get to all those areas, but we believe you got to address those first.
Most entrepreneurs and coaches, number two, most entrepreneurs and coaches have an unrealistic expectation of the time required to start and build a business.
It doesn't happen overnight?
It does not happen overnight.
How about a week?
Sure. I mean, let's have some stats. In the first year, 50% of most businesses fail.
Yeah.
First year. After that, in 5 years, 75% have failed. That's not just coaches, that's every business. So you need to be really, 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 really smart about what you're going to do and how you're going to step into it. Whatever endeavor you take. We're talking about coaches today, but this applies to every business out there. Whatever you want to start, side hustle, whatever. Be realistic on your time requirement and be realistic on how you're going to put things in place to reduce that time requirement down the road. Put in frameworks.
Great news, less than 20% of businesses make it to the third generation. So if you're a family-owned business, you do everything right, you get through the second generation, less than 20% get to the third generation, not because the business isn't working well, because the business owner didn't do the right things to make sure there was an orderly transfer of the business. So there's always things you got to be working on to make sure that your business and your legacy makes it.
Another piece of this is not only is it the time requirement, but it's the financial requirements. You need to set a runway that if you aren't airborne by this number, you spent this much money, you need to stop. Stop the bleeding, because I don't care what you do. There's a point where you got to cut bait and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people go broke trying to fix something that's not fixable.
Out of absolute stubbornness.
Yeah, for no good reason.
And I admire people that want to persevere. We really do. But you got to keep, common sense has to be a part of the equation, right? If you keep doing things, you try in a variety of ways, sometimes things just don't work. I know there's a lot of gurus out there that'll tell you that, anything can be, well, okay, sure, we'll go with that. But in the real world of working with them, seeing them, being them, I've tried things that I thought were going to be great businesses. They didn't work because nobody else saw it. I was the only one that saw it. So that means I was the one that didn't understand it, usually. But we don't want to admit that, right? You've got all these key phrases like, well, I was ahead of my time, or, they just couldn't see it. No, usually you're the one that has the blinders on. So keep perspective. And that's one of the things, why we believe so much in BEBO, our Bold Entrepreneurs and Business Owners Masterminds, but because there's nothing like a group of fellow entrepreneurs and business owners to keep you in check on what's a good idea and what's a bad idea.
That's a fact. So, the next thing is, if you have bad financial habits before you start a business, you're going to have bad financial habits in your business, which is going to cause exponentially more problems.
Yeah.
You need to identify what your bad financial habits are today before you step into that side hustle, that business, and learn what it's going to take to cash flow properly and ensure you're making money at the point where it makes sense to make money.
Well, most people don't, they always, I love it when people say, well, our top line revenue was $20 million. That's wonderful. How much money did you make?
Our bottom line expenses are $21.5 million. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We've got clients that do $1 million sales that make more money than clients that do $10 million in sales.
Yep.
Okay, the owner actually makes more money themselves, more profit.
The company, because they're prioritizing the right things, they understand their financials.
Yeah.
And they're reviewing them as to what is our margin, what's our expected margin. If we're not there, why aren't we there? And if we are there, what can we do to stay here?
Correct.
Right? What do we do to build the company? And that's something you've really got to understand. And it's not hard math. It really isn't. So that's one of the things you need to think about when you start a business of any type. The next thing, and this is something that I'm going to be brutally open and honest here. You've got to get over your fear of sales and marketing. And I will tell you, sales calls are not my bag. I do them, and I've learned to get better at them. But 10 years ago, when I got in the military doing this, I was like, man, this is painful. But you have to face that monster, and you have to work through the scripts, and you have to go through the training. You have to keep honing the sword so you can have those conversations and be real with people. Sales and marketing are the engines for your company that makes it a business. If you do not sell anything, you do not have a business.
Yeah, two very distinct areas that blend in and that mesh. You won't have excellence in one without the other. But I think there's also, I think people have the wrong idea what sales is. Sales is about education. It's about talking. It's about being a great active listener. It's about being really direct in a professional way. You know, if you go through life telling everybody what they want to hear, they'll never hear what they need to hear. And if you're really in it to help people get better, that's where you want to get to. Now, don't go charging in like a bull and say, you really suck at these three things, because nobody's going to hear you. But you've got to have a way of approaching people to help them understand what either your service, your product, or whatever it may be that you happen to be selling. What is it going to fix for them? How's it going to improve their life, their experience? What's in it for them? And too many times, I think sales professionals, they focus on what's in it for them and not on the customer. And that's a big mistake that a lot of people make.
What pain are you solving for that customer? It's not about you, it's about them. I mean, Phil is completely right. The next thing, and this is probably one of my favorite things for every business out there. If you go on Facebook right now, there's 3,000 people that can tell you you're going to be a millionaire if you buy their plan and do their marketing program for your business.
In 30 days.
In 30 days, 2 weeks. That's a bunch of horse hockey. That is a bunch of nonsense. And I challenge any of you marketing experts, you want to give me free marketing and prove it to me, I'll give you 50% of our profit.
Oh, yeah, hell, I'll give you 80% of our profit.
If you can go out and make $1 million in 30 days for our company and put those leads in there, I'll give you 50% of our profit.
Yeah.
Because what I've seen, that's not happening. I've spent thousands of dollars on these marketing gurus, and you've got to be really, 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 really careful and make sure you do your research and make sure you understand what that means and what you're going to get, because they're running a business too, and that's their marketing plan. And people get excited when they get sold snake oil.
Now, and I want to be clear about this. There are great companies out there that do great work, but they're also not telling you you're going to make $1 million in 30 days. You know, they're the ones that'll look you in the eye and say, no, our system works if you invest in it, if you execute on it. I've got a friend, Brian Moran, that says it's not about who you know, it's not even about what you know, it's about what you execute. And he's 100% correct. You have to execute the things that you think are going to work, or the processes that you put into play. You can put all this stuff into play. If you don't go out and do it, it doesn't matter. We all know fundamentally what we need to do to be healthier. Unfortunately, many of us don't do those things. We all know what we need to do to have a happier relationship with your partner. People don't do all those things. So there's countless examples all around us. That's why I'm always amazed when people think in business it's different.
Well, it's the same reason you don't hire a coach.
Correct.
I mean, because it's different. It's not my kids getting better. I know everything. I'm the smartest person in the world. And I don't mean to be condescending in that statement. It's the reality of us. Yeah. Me too, right? It takes a lot to ask for help as an adult. It shows that you've grown as an adult when you go, man, I don't really know this. I'm not an expert. Yeah. That's one of the biggest things in life, being able to admit when you don't know something.
Well, man, I want to spend a couple seconds on that. That's something that I believe wholeheartedly, is that if you're willing to look at somebody and say, okay, I know I'm good at these things. Here's the validation of that. But these 4 things, I'm terrible at. Now, I'm a reasonably smart person. I'm willing to put in the work. I want to become good at those things. How do I do that? Right? Those are the people that are always growing, that are creating, that are doing the cool things out there in the market. You've got to have the ability to have, my good friend Matt said, the best salesperson he ever met gave me the impression they were selling. They weren't selling anything.
Yeah.
And that's because what they're really, one of our businesses, it's not about necessarily the product, because everybody's kind of priced the same. It's about making a selection on whether you think our firm is going to do a better job than the firm you're currently using.
It's about the relationship.
It's about the relationship. It's also about showing, hey, these are the things that we're going to do, validating those statements, and then most importantly, executing on what you say you're going to do. That's still, in my opinion, the most cost-effective marketing in the world, is doing great jobs for who you're working for, so they feel inclined to tell other people about how great of a job they're doing, because they feel really smart. They seem really smart because they hired you, right? Or they engaged in your firm. That's still the most cost-effective marketing out there.
Referral is the most cost-effective. So the last thing here, and we kind of hit it before about runway, but the reason most businesses don't succeed, most coaches don't succeed, is they run out of funding.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand what kind of funding, where to get funding, who to talk to about funding, you really need to do your research before you start business. SBA has small business loans. There's companies out there that do incubators to help you grow your business, that offer opportunities for funding. But funding is the number one challenge for small business and startups, and the reason they aren't successful. They may have a great idea, but 9 times out of 10, they run at a runway and they can't fund what they're doing, even though they're getting traction.
Yeah.
Right. And I would tell you, with the current situation of our economy, that funding is going to be harder and harder to get. So, make sure you're making smart decisions. You're not running away from a job that's paying you right now until you get a good foothold on the new thing you want to do and get it moving. I'm not saying don't pivot and cut bait, but there's a time and a place.
Yeah, you got to be smart about it. I mean, you don't want to put yourself, your family in a weird situation. If you're considering launching a business, whether it's business coaching or, a CPA practice or whatever it is, selling a widget that you've invented, you've got to be smart about how you go about doing these things, because nothing will shut down creativity more than financial stress, because you kick into survival mode.
Yep.
Right? I mean, the primal behaviors.
And you lose focus on your niche, right?
Yeah.
And when you lose focus on your niche, you can't really, or your niche, however you say it, you can't really sell anymore, because you're just selling anything to everybody.
Yeah.
And that's not what great businesses have. A specific product focused on a specific ideal customer, and they solve that problem for that ideal customer very well, and that's why they grow.
That doesn't mean they don't have other things that they can cross-sell to, other services, other products, but they're going to be known for doing this one thing really, really well, because once you do that thing really, really well for somebody, then they're going to hire you for these other things or buy these other things from you because they had a great experience with you in the area that you specialize in.
So I'm going to close with this. Phil and I are pretty excited because if you've listened to us, our goal is to have 1,000 businesses in 10 years. We realize that the only way we can do that is provide material and training to people that want to do the same thing we're doing. So we're opening up a coaching certification program. We're excited about it. If you want to be a coach, reach out to us. The first 5 people that reach out to us, there is no fee. We're going to train you. We're going to give you the tools. We're going to give feedback into the program, what we do better, and then it will be yours to go run with, and you have a foundation to go execute on your own with your own practice, because we truly want to help people do great things in this world.
Yeah, we want to help people create their own business, create their own independence, their own freedom for what that looks like for them. But, we really want to we know that there's a strong need for high quality business coaches out there. They're needed so badly. And there's much more people that need help than there are qualified people to give that help. And so Dave and I are always talking about helping businesses. What better way than to help people create their own business? So we're very excited about that. You're going to see a lot more from us on that. But like Dave said, give us a holler. We'll be happy to explain how it works and get you started on your own business.
And we already have 2 slots filled up, so there's 3 free slots left, right?
There's 3 left. Yeah.
3 left, so get on there. And be sure to share this with your friends if they want to get in or just understand and have a conversation. We're here to help. If your business is struggling, or if you want to make more money this year than you did last year, reach out to us and let's see how we can improve your business and if we're a fit to work together. With that, I'm Dave. It's Phil. We are out of here. I think right here, my mouse died.
Well, that's no good.
There's a...
Thanks, Matty.
Thanks, Matt.
Love me some Matt.
There it is.
It's all back.